I watched the documentary American Factory on Netflix for this assignment. It follows the reopening of a closed General Motors factory after it had been bought by a Chinese factory called Feo Glass, and so it became Feo Glass America. At first, in the documentary, you really felt a sense of hope that the workers felt. After years of job loss, it seemed like this was going to be a second chance for them. But as the story unfolds, it becomes very clear that the blending of the two different cultures is just clashing. And so the American and Chinese cultures together was bringing a lot of tension and misunderstandings and unequal power dynamics. What stood out to me was how globalization could create both opportunity and exploitation. So, at first, the American workers were grateful to have jobs again, but the working conditions were more intense, the pay was lower, the working conditions were not good, um, and there was a lack of respect for labor rights compared to what they had been used to when it was an American owned factory. As far as connections to other social concerns, we did see some cultural tension, and surprisingly, I didn't see as much xenophobia as I had imagined the people would feel. The documentary did a really good job showing people who weren't just upset because it was different races, but really because it was different culture and different expectations. But you could still see the misunderstandings between Chinese managers and American employees, and the difference in what they expected led to like a mistrust and resentment, I think, on both sides. And then we also see mental health and family strain. It was already stressful on the people that didn't have employment. There's a lady that was living out of her basement and house, or living out of her sister's basement, sorry. Um, but you see the strain of low wages, long hours, and lack of control over working conditions affected workers' well being and their families. And you saw that on both sides, on the American side and also the Chinese who are working in the American factory and the Chinese in the Chinese factory. Several institutions were involved. So the economy and labor market were directly impacted as jobs shift from traditional American manufacturing to a global corporate model. And so the American government was involved with implementing labor laws, safety regulations, and union protections. And you saw that obviously in the talk about unions, but also even when the the Chinese chairman, came over and wanted them to move the fire alarm because it wasn't aesthetic. And the guy was like, well, that has to be there. Like, that's regulations. Um, but I mean, really, even though they were trying to keep it within the American laws, there wasn't really a lot of. I guess I expected maybe the government or like OSHA to step in more, but we also saw the family institution was involved with the workers' stress and instability rippling into family life and affecting their relationships with their family. As far as manifest versus latent functions, for manifest functions, you saw the company's goal was to create jobs and stimulate the local economy by reopening the factory. They also had wanted to just like increase Chinese and American relations with this. For latent function, the jobs created, they were created, but they came with low income, low wages, unsafe conditions, and tension between workers and management, which in turn worsened worker morale and the community's trust in the company. This document showed how there are U.S. labor laws and OSHA safety regulations that are meant to protect workers, but the actual enforcement was pretty limited, and cultural differences can make compliance tricky. You can see that when the management team is mostly Chinese employees, that they're just kind of like laughing at the regulations and like, so we just found a way to get around that. Um, and so unions and National Labor Relations Board did play a role when workers tried to organize. So that's okay. So you also saw some safety net programs mentioned. Like when the one lady was hurt, she was worried about if she was going to still be getting paid, and they talked about unemployment insurance, um, and that they do help workers, but they did not do enough to solve the larger systemic problems. Um, okay, so my question is, how can we protect workers' rights while still encouraging global investment in local communities? It did kind of raise the question on if we have so much regulation that other countries aren't used to, are we still going to be seen as worthy of investment for those global companies?